You know, it's pretty wild how a conflict in one corner of the world can make waves everywhere else. And it doesn't take long. We're talking just a few weeks. We're going to trace this explosive chain reaction, one that starts in a single region but has a direct line to the global economy. And, yeah, to all of us.
And let's be clear, this isn't some distant problem you can just tune out. In just 3 short weeks, what started as targeted airstrikes has spiraled into a full-blown war. And it's unleashing disruptions on a scale we really haven't seen in decades.
So that's the big question, right? How can one single conflict do so much damage so fast? Well, the answer really comes down to geography and one incredibly important and now incredibly vulnerable spot on the map. It's all about a single choke point.
And that choke point is the Strait of Hormuz. For decades, it's been this quiet, vital cornerstone of global trade. But today, it has become the volatile, white-hot epicenter of this crisis. Honestly, the best way to picture the Strait is to think of it like a major artery for the entire planet. If that artery gets clogged, the lifeblood of the global economy, we're talking oil, gas, and all sorts of goods, it just stops flowing. And right now, that artery is almost completely blocked. Now, to really get why this matters, you have to look at the numbers. The sheer volume of stuff that passes through this narrow channel is just staggering. A full quarter of the world's seaborne oil and a fifth of its liquefied natural gas all gets squeezed through this one spot. So shutting this down isn't like causing a small leak, it's like causing a massive hemorrhage in the global energy market. And here's the real kicker. At its narrowest point, the shipping lane is just 21 miles wide. That is a tiny gap for so much of the world's economy to pass through, and that's what makes it so dangerously easy to disrupt. And the consequences? They're immediate, they're severe, and they start with a massive energy shock.
Okay, so a bottleneck in the Middle East. What does that actually mean for you? Let's trace that first and most powerful ripple effect, the energy shockwave that travels from the Strait and lands directly in your wallet. The market's reaction was, well, instantaneous. Oil prices just exploded, shot up by over 25%, surging past that critical $100 a barrel mark. And this isn't just Wall Street speculation, you know. This is a direct physical result of supply being taken offline.
And here's a number that really puts this supply crunch into perspective. 140 million. That's how many barrels of oil that major producers like Saudi Arabia and Kuwait have been forced to halt. To put it another way, it's like someone just switched off the entire planet's oil consumption for nearly a day and a half. Just gone.
So as you can imagine, governments are scrambling to respond. And what they've done is pretty historic. The International Energy Agency authorized its largest ever coordinated release of emergency reserves. It's a massive attempt to flood the market and stabilize prices. But let's be real, it's a band-aid. It can't last forever if the Strait stays closed.
But this shockwave goes so much deeper than just oil. Natural gas shipments from Qatar have stopped. And then you have these hidden casualties you might not even think about. 40% of the world's helium is now at risk. And why does that matter? Well, helium is essential for making the semiconductors that power our modern world. And with fertilizer shortages, this energy crisis could easily trigger a food crisis. It's a domino effect, and it's now crashing right into our global transportation networks.
Right. So with fuel prices skyrocketing and major transport hubs now under attack, the crisis is basically paralyzing the very systems that connect our world. It's grounding planes and creating an absolute tangled mess for global trade. And we can't forget the human cost. With key airports like Dubai and Doha under attack, over 1 million travelers have been left stranded. That's over 1 million business trips, family reunions, and vacations, all just thrown into chaos.
And for the planes that are still in the air, it's a logistical nightmare. That typical direct route is no longer an option. Instead, airlines are being forced into these massive detours, adding hours to flights and burning up to 30% more of that already super expensive jet fuel.
And it's the exact same story at sea. The standard, efficient route is now blocked. So container ships are taking the long way around Africa, adding up to 2 full weeks to their journey. And you can bet that every single one of those extra days means higher costs for pretty much everything you buy. You know, this gets to a much bigger point. This isn't just about some delays. It's a direct challenge to the entire just-in-time model that modern business is built on. Our supply chains are designed for maximum efficiency, not for resilience. So when a 2-week delay hits a system built for next-day delivery, the entire thing just starts to fracture. So all of this, the energy shock, the transport chaos, it's all converging into a perfect storm. So for our final section, let's zoom out and look at the broader economic fallout and what the future might hold.
The economic risks are pretty stark. Higher energy and shipping costs directly fuel inflation. To fight that, central banks may be forced to raise interest rates, which could easily trigger a global recession. For everyday people, the bottom line is simple. The cost of nearly everything is going up.
But amid all this gloom, there is a surprising glimmer of resilience. Compared to past oil shocks, our global economy is actually more energy efficient. Today, we use 36% less oil to produce the same amount of economic output as we did 25 years ago. That efficiency provides a crucial buffer, buying us some precious time to adapt.
And that leads us to the final, critical question this crisis forces us all to confront. Is this just a temporary shock, or is it the catalyst for a permanent change? Are we about to witness a fundamental reshaping of the global supply chains and energy maps we've all relied on for decades? The answer to that is going to define the next era of our global economy. So, we've traced the chain reaction from a single conflict to a global economic crisis. This whole situation is evolving every single day. To follow the latest developments and for more in-depth analysis, be sure to visit the Fair Solution website.